Somehow this got cut off in the middle, so we have a break in the middle. You're going to write up for them their percentage chances of having a child who's affected or a carrier. So you'll be doing work with a couple's case history, and you'll actually be writing up a letter of recommendation for them, talking about, what their results have been, basically. Okay, so there are a bunch of diseases that are carried on the main body chromosomes. Remember what we called the chromosomes? We said you had 23 pairs, and pairs 1 through 22 were called what? Do you remember? Starts with an A. Zach should know this. Only because it's auto, cars. It was a joke. Not a very good one, but... autosomes. So they are autosomes. These are the things that control most of what goes on in your body. So this is pairs 1 through 22. So any of the diseases like cystic fibrosis and those things, sickle cell anemia, those are called autosomal recessive diseases. Okay? So let's break down what that means. So the autosomal means that this is carried on an autosome. And that just means that it's carried somewhere on the first 22 pairs of chromosomes. Okay. Recessive means that you have to have how many copies of the allele in order to have the disease? 2. So, must inherit 2 copies of gene to be affected. Okay, so this would be things like the sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, a few others that we're going to look at. Now I'm trying to remember what the other one is that we do in the case studies. So these are autosomal recessive diseases. There is another kind of major category of genetic disease. And gentlemen, I'm going to tell you that this is completely unfair to you. They are called sex-linked disorders. Okay? So we have 2 major categories of genetic diseases. Autosomal recessives, and we have sex-linked disorders. Guess which chromosomes these are carried on? The sex chromosomes. So these are diseases that are carried on the sex chromosomes. And these are not sexually transmitted. They have nothing to do with, you don't get them sexually. But they are carried on the sex chromosomes. And many of them are carried on the X chromosome. Most of them are recessive. So who do you think would be affected? Males. Why? So here's a female who has this little flaw in one of her X chromosomes. If this is recessive, she has a normal X chromosome to dominate, and she won't show the condition. If we have a male with that same little flaw in his X, guess what? He's affected. He's going to be affected because he doesn't have a backup copy of an X chromosome. So he doesn't have a normal X chromosome to mask the effects of this X chromosome that's got some condition associated with it. So one of the most common conditions that we talk about with sex-linked disorders is color blindness. Okay? Do I have any colorblind males in here? Okay? You are?
No, I know one.
You know one. Okay. I do too. I'm married to him. My husband's colorblind. So, you know what? Should we take a test to see if anybody in here is colorblind? Okay. Let's look at how sex-linked disorders are passed on, because this is a little bit different. So if we say, and like I said, the alleles for color blindness, on an X chromosome, you have a gene that causes the body to produce normal cone cells in the eye that can perceive a full range of color. So this would be a normal X. We don't designate it in any way. So this is normal color vision. So for color blindness, we have an X chromosome that's got all the genes for normal color vision, and we have this one, which we'll call color limited, because you understand people who are colorblind they don't see in black and white, but they typically have a hard time distinguishing. Usually it's shades of reds and greens that don't appear to them. So we have these two genes. Now, if a female is a carrier for color blindness, what does that look like? What would she have? We'll shrink these down. So we've got a couple different female carrier is going to be XC. That's a female carrier. A female who's not a carrier would just be XX. Yeah, plain old XX. Nothing interesting there. Could a male be a carrier?
Yeah.
No. Because if a male gets one copy of this, he's affected. He doesn't have a backup X chromosome to rely on. It's like traveling with no spare tire. Okay? So a male who's not affected would be regular old XY. Okay, so let's look at the odds for a couple. Well, let's look at the odds for me and my husband. He's colorblind. What are the odds of us producing a colorblind child? Maybe my daughter isn't just being stubborn about learning her colors. Maybe she really can't tell green from turquoise. I don't know. Let's look at it. We have, I am not a carrier. I know this. There's no family history of color blindness on my side of the family. None. Not a single person. I go to a 250-person family reunion. Not one of them is colorblind. I'm not a carrier. So my genotype is what? Big plain old XX. My husband is colorblind. He comes out wearing, pants and shirts that he thinks are the same color, and they're really not, and I have to send him back to go change. Because he can't tell shades. So, like, he'll put royal blue with navy blue with another shade of blue, and he's like, I'm dressed! No, you're not. Go back. Start over. So, we know he's colorblind. Ooh, yeah. Yep, X with a little C, and then a Y. You know what? He does amazingly well. He really, other than the whole when he thinks he's wearing all one color and he's really not, he does very well. But, and Mr. Voorhees is also colorblind. One of the giveaways that you're looking at a guy who's colorblind is almost everything in my husband's closet is either blue, brown, or yellow. He's sort of drawn to those colors, and those are the colors that he would perceive the most like the rest of us. And I have heard it said that like colorblind guys kind of end up picking those colors because they appear more strongly to them. But he does okay. It hasn't really impacted his quality of life. He just can't be a pilot. Okay, so let's do the Punnett Square here. What do we get? X, XC, X, XC, X, Y, X, Y. Now, there are two different sets of odds here. The odds in a sex-linked disorder are different for males and for females. Okay? for the female offspring, what are their odds of being, well, let's go back to genotype ratios. So how many XXs do we have? How many XXCs do we have? We have no plain old XXs. So for phenotypes, there are two phenotypes for them. There's not a carrier or carrier. What percentage of my husband's female offspring are carriers for color blindness? 100%. Every single daughter that he produces will be a carrier for color blindness. So my daughter is a carrier for color blindness. So if someday she grows up and has a son, he could be colorblind. Wow. Okay, well that's the odds for the females. Now we have to look at the odds for the males differently. So for the males, there are two options. They could be XCY or XY. How many XCYs do we have? Zero. And we have two of the XYs. None of them are carriers. None of them are affected. They can't be carriers, and none of them are affected. None of them are affected. So for a colorblind male, all of his daughters will be carriers. None of his sons are impacted in any way, shape, or form. Okay? So this comes down on your mother's side of the family, but through your maternal grandfather. Okay? So some of the girls in here might be carriers. You don't know it. If you have a colorblind father, are you a carrier? 100%. Yeah. So ask your dad if he's colorblind, or better yet, subject him to some testing. Make him a guinea pig. Hey, Dad, come here. Okay, so let's look at her offspring. So what happens when she has kids? So now we have, what are the odds that any of her children, male or female, will be colorblind or be carriers or anything else? So what's her genotype? What is it? X with a C. What's his genotype? XY. Nothing interesting at all, just XY. Okay, so we get X, 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 C, X, Y, X, C, Y. Okay, so let's break this down among female offspring. So we have two possible genotypes. How many of each do we have? One. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. What are the chances that any of her daughters are going to be carriers? 50%. So 50% chance that her daughters will be carriers. For her male offspring, what are our possible genotypes? XY, XCY. How many of each do we have? One. So what are the chances that any of her male offspring will be colorblind? 50%. Now my husband has one brother. It's just him and his brother. His brother is not colorblind. They met the odds perfectly. I have had a family now of, I think there are 6 kids altogether. I've had 3 of them so far. And I've had 3 of the boys. I think there are 4 boys, 2 girls. And 2 of the boys are colorblind. So I'm very curious to know if that last one is colorblind. The odds are 50-50 every time. But on average, like if they had 100 kids, 100 boys, which nobody should ever do, we would be expecting that about 50% of them, on average, would be colorblind. So, okay. Questions or comments on this? What we're going to do on Monday when you walk in is a quiz on paper. So this will not be online because I want you to be able to draw stuff. And on that quiz, you're going to have you'll have a word problem or two, where I say things like, a heterozygous father and a pink-nosed mother. You have to figure out those genotypes, do the ratio, do the Punnett Square, do the ratios, and then we're going to do a sex-linked problem You know what? I'll make the sex-linked problem a bonus, since we just covered this. So we'll do a couple word problems, one that relates to an autosomal recessive disease, and then we'll have a bonus problem, which is a sex-linked disorder. And then we're going to start the case studies. So you're going to start working on your genetics projects, your genetic counseling projects. And I'm hoping and trying to contact somebody who could come in and talk to us from the community. So that's it.